Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ground and Pound podcast, the show where, as always, we're hitting you with them elbows of knowledge. And here to recap UFC 316 in all of its glory, I'm here with my co-host, Carlos. What's happening, Carlos?
Absolutely nothing, brother.
And as always, we're going to kick things off talking about the prelims, heading to the main event, giving you our thoughts on all the action that took place last night. And kicking things off, we had Marquel Mederos getting the unanimous decision victory over Mark Choinski. And this one, all of the UFC hardcores know Joe Rogan loves a good calf kick. And you obviously know in this fight, Joe Rogan was going to be mentioning all of the calf kicks built up here by Mederos. Obviously, butchering that calf at one point, he did actually have an illegal strike, which Dean Thomas had to text DC, and DC announced on there, obviously, the downward strike. When he was on the floor, he tried to stamp on his calf. Referee didn't care too much, but ultimately it didn't affect the score too much of the fight. Mederos pretty much outclassed him on the feet. We've noticed now in a few fights with Mederos, he does get his back taken a few times, so obviously that can be exploited later on down the line with a better matchup. Choinski didn't really kind of go to the wrestling enough, I think, when he did get into full mount, he was pretty impressive, but ultimately Mederos' striking proved us right. We knew that obviously his striking was going to be the difference maker here, and now 3-0 inside the UFC. I want to give him a better test next time. Let's see where he's at, but I still think he has a lot of holes in his game, especially in the grappling. But Carlos, what did you think overall of the performance?
I thought that obviously Mederos looked good. I just figured that Choinski should have probably tried to have implemented a lot more wrestling if that were the case from the start, because he wanted to stand with them. We definitely knew he wasn't going to be, he wasn't going to be as credentialed to be able to do so. But the only time he went for a takedown, it got stuffed because at this level here, whatever type of wrestling you have, if you don't use it on the regional scene, he's using his stand up a lot more. Then when you try to come in and use your wrestling, you're not going to be able to do it. So level, you're going to have to figure out how to mix everything together. But Markel, good performance, and see what he does next out.
Yeah, I think if he goes against a high-level wrestler grappler, I think he's going to be in trouble. If you're getting a guy like Mark Choinski, obviously his skill set with his wrestling is obviously his best path to victory. But we've seen now Austin Hubbard's been able to take his back. Choinski's been able to take his back, get into mount as well. So it'll be interesting to see who he gets next. And I'm going to be keeping a close eye on that. That might be worth a little bet down the line. And I felt for all of the UFC fans that had to listen to Joe Rogan absolutely, orgasm over all of the calf kicks. His calf is compromised. Yeah, you said, Joe, you've told us many times, but hats off to Mederos. Got it done. 3-0 inside the UFC. And next up, we had Quillan Salkilld getting it done by unanimous decision here against Yanal Ashmouz. And this one, I was kind of surprised. I think so with the commentary team. I don't know how you felt about this one, but I was surprised that Salkilld actually came in and implemented some wrestling. We both said we thought that best path to victory would have been to try to use the wrestling, but I think Salkilld came out here and tried to prove a point that he's not just a striker, he's not just a rangy kickboxer with power. He wanted to come in, he implemented some wrestling. He did kind of get a little bit tired, as to be expected. It was a high outpaced fight, and Yanal did actually move forward and kind of pressure him throughout the fight. But I was impressed with Salkilld. It's just another kind of tick box to me that says, he can grapple, he can wrestle. And he obviously, we know about his striking. So good performance from him overall. I think he looked good. Ashmouz is a respectable competitor, and it was a good fight overall. What did you think of the performance, Carlos? And were you surprised that he decided to become a wrestler, as Nate Diaz would say?
I mean, I didn't think that he, was doing it to prove a point. I thought that you have someone like Ashmouz who's, very ground oriented if he can get it there. And a lot of times when you're thinking about countering with strikes, if you're not thinking grappling first, that guy's going to get you down at some point. Then you're going to be working from the bottom to get right back up. But if you start with wrestling with him just to counter it, I think that that's a great idea. Salkilld actually got a couple takedowns too, I think, if I remember correctly, as he reversed it. So I felt like he had the skill to do it. That's why I wasn't too worried about Ashmouz's wrestling with Salkilld. I was just surprised that you know Ashmouz was he just came right at him. He was pressure from the start. So for Salkilld to show that he's got the cardio to keep up that pace and still finish the fight, I was very impressed.
Yeah, for sure. I just think that Salkilld looks like he could be respectable. I don't think he's necessarily a top 15 guy. It's too early to tell, where his kind of skill set lies. But I just think that he's looked fairly impressive, obviously, getting it done with the hands, and this week getting it done with the wrestling. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. And he needs to keep that mustache, too. And next up, we had probably the highlight of the whole event. If you haven't seen this one, check this one out. But the check left hook here of Sang Yu puts to sleep Jeka. And this one, performance of the night bonus, 50K. As long as it lasted. I mean, I don't know how long this one was. I want to say it probably lasted, felt like all of a minute, maybe, if that. And he looks impressive, man. Like Carlos and I both said, obviously fighting out of South Korea, out of the Korean Zombies promotion. Junior Zombie, which is obviously he's coming in here talking about making a name for himself, not necessarily off of the Korean Zombie's back, but basically just saying that he wants to be able to get the belt for Korean Zombie. And his striking looks impressive. When you watch him on video, he can wrestle, but performance of the night bonus here and a check left hook. Jeka falls to the ground like an absolute sack of potatoes. He looked like a tree getting cut down in a forest, and obviously stepping in very quickly and getting it done here. Was impressed, honestly. I was happy that he kicked things off here for our confident parlay on our best bets, and he did it in dramatic style. Carlos, what did you think overall of the performance?
Oh yeah, it was short. So whatever we got to see was exactly what we. Yeah, I thought he had some sharp striking and he displayed it. Saragih, like we had said before, like he's not the most technical guy, probably not even UFC level, but that was a high level face plant. I've only seen, I think, Manny Pacquiao do something like that. So, he's up there when it comes to being a pro. He fell the right way. He was able to get uh, saying, yo, the 50K bonus. He was out and he had to throw that extra punch while he was on the ground, or the referee wasn't really coming over. I don't know why the ref like took a step or two before, like a second or two before he came over to stop it. But that extra little punch there was super necessary, as we all know. So good job, Sang Yu.
He hit the dismount. He stuck the landing, as they say. But no, I was right there with you. He got a little sneaky one in at the end, but like you said, super necessary. And one thing that was definitely necessary with this one was Dana White giving him a 50K bonus. The highlight of the night for sure. And next up, we had Khaos Williams taking on Gustafsson. And I got to say, man, I think a lot of people, from what I saw, kind of a mixed reaction. I know the fans are obviously booing Gustafsson for his style. It's not necessarily the most fan-friendly style for some people who want to see a bang and trade and back and forth war, but I took away from this one that I think this guy's actually going to be very impressive, and I don't want to compare him to Marab because it's not necessarily the same style. It's got elements of the same style, but I was impressed because I was looking at this guy. I'm thinking this guy could probably do this to a lot of people, and it's going to be tough to beat because he's going to hold you against the fence, as we saw with Khaos Williams. He looks like he's sleeping on his shoulder in the top image, but that's probably how some of the fans felt. But it's just a smothering style. He just wears you down. He can do that for 3 rounds. He didn't necessarily look like he was breathing too heavy. Once he can grab a hold of you, that's it. He's just going to hold you there. He's going to beat you up in the clinch like he did in that particular fight last night against Khaos Williams. And it's going to be a sniper who's going to be able to kind of catch him coming in. Ultimately, Khaos doesn't necessarily have that striking ability. We know he has the power and athleticism, but I just think he needed to throw straight shots and find the chin. He wasn't able to get him off of him. And Gustafsson's just a berserker, man. He just keeps coming forward. He can do that probably for I would say he could probably do that for 5 rounds, judging by how he looked in that fight over the course of 3. And some people aren't going to like it. It's not going to be a fan-friendly style. I don't think the UFC is necessarily going to enjoy it a whole lot in terms of promoting it and selling it on pay-per-views. But I think he's going to be a tough out. I think he's going to be beating a few people like that until he gets to somebody that he gets his chin checked. But Carlos, what do you think of the fight overall? And what do you think of the performance in his style of fighting?
I was actually surprised that he just didn't come in like he did when we saw a video of him on the regional circuit. I want to say, was it Cage Warriors he was in? Or I'm
Might have
not
been
too sure.
Brave.
But
I'm not sure. I forget. Yeah.
might have been Brave, yeah. But either way, the way he came in there was just he ate a punch and stepped in. Here, he was able to actually be a little active, and he I don't know what made Chaos hesitate. He didn't let anything go on the way in. I think it's because he had like a little shuffle and he kind of moved his arms and his head at the same time, and then he just bull rushed him, came in. The thing I like about his style is that he's willing to do damage. Once he gets inside, he gets that body lock, and it looked. I mean, it is Chaos Williams. He's not the greatest wrestler in the division, but once he got like that gable grip around him, which you have to be like a gorilla to get that grip and somebody not break it, and Chaos had a hard time doing so. He was able to throw elbows in tight and short punches that were able to wear him down even more to the body, to the head. Um, that's going to cause a lot of problems for people because everybody wants a little distance, even in grappling, even in ground and pound. Guys want to be able to raise up, get some leverage, and create some space to throw very effective ground and pound. He doesn't necessarily have to do that, and his shots were pretty hard. So I'd like to see where it goes next. But with this performance, I actually didn't expect that. I expected him to get probably sparked on the way in by Chaos because he was coming in one line, but he did something that threw off Chaos Williams, and we'll see how that works in his future fights. But right now, I was kind of impressed.
Yeah, that was my takeaway. Was I was kind of shaking my head, thinking like this guy's going to be a problem whether people like it or not, because that style is just he could do that to a lot of people unless you can catch him clean coming in. It's going to be tough. That's why I compare him a little bit to Marab in some sense. Is that it's that pressure, it's that cardio, and it's the fact that you need to really put him out in order to beat him because he will take you down. He will grab a hold of you. He will keep coming, and it's like Carlos said, he's strong like a gorilla as well, and it's tough to break the grip once he gets you up against a fence. But I think he's a problem, man. But not a fan-friendly style. Obviously, Chaos Williams now 2 losses in a row, being submitted and also getting beaten up by this guy. So see what the future holds for Chaos. And next up, we had Wang Cong getting the unanimous decision victory here against Lipski. And I got to say one thing as well. I'm happy that obviously Wang Cong got paid for the dirty weight miss here by Ariane Lipski. Ultimately, the striking proved to prevail, but I wasn't necessarily overwhelmed with the performance here of Wang Cong. I also want to say as well on the broadcast, they were calling her like Wong Tong. Is that which is really, really strange to me. I don't know if you noticed that, Carlos. The pronunciation, I'm sure they maybe get it right, but that's not how the name's said. Kind of confusing to me. But I question her moving forward. I got to say, she's not necessarily kind of being a world beater. Lipski had a few moments on the feet where she was kind of landing as well. Obviously, the calf was compromised, so we know that Joe Rogan was enjoying himself over at the commentary booth. But Wang Cong getting it done with her striking. Obviously, very, very credentialed striker, as we all know, and as they like to talk about. But thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And I just think overall, I just think that the performances have kind of just always had that little asterisk behind it. She's not put a stamp on a lot of fights. She is very, very fluent on the feet, but she does get hit by women that you wouldn't expect to kind of hold a candle to her in the striking. So I think moving forward, it'll be interesting to see if she gets a real opponent, maybe a higher level wrestler or somebody that's a little bit higher up in the rankings to see how she does. But I'd be interested to see how she does. I think she called out Jessica Andrade, so I think that'd be an interesting matchup because we know Andrade does have a lot of power and can wrestle. So, Carlos, what do you think overall of the Wang Cong performance and the dirty weight miss by Lipski?
Well, with Lipski, I didn't think too much about it. Like, I don't know. They said that she had some type of medical issue, and there was a reasoning why she couldn't make the last couple pounds, like or several pounds, whatever the case may be. When it comes to Kong and the or Tong and the striking, one thing you got to realize is that it's very different. Yes, she's highly decorated in kickboxing, but when you're in the cage and you're throwing punches and you got the little gloves and let's say you're in punching range, kickboxers have very terrible like striking defense when it comes to punches. Like they don't have very good defense in boxing range. But when she was out in kickboxing range, she looked like a world beater. She looked fine. She looked the way Kong was supposed to look. But Lipski, I was surprised that she had some flashes of success in the fight. I just wish she were capitalized on it because for some reason I felt that she could have probably instead of looking for those flashes, she should have probably focused on trying to get the fight to the ground more so. And that would have been her best route to victory, and she didn't end up doing that. She was able to stand up, and maybe it was because she got compromised. I'm not exactly sure why the case is, but she allowed Cong to be where she's usually superior. And we've seen kickboxers come in plenty of times and get put out by MMA guys. It's just the striking is different in the cage, but we've actually seen Cong get put down, and then submitted. So I think she's chasing what Shevchenko has, the success in MMA, and she's like, "Well, I've outclassed her in kickboxing. I could do the same thing in MMA." And I think she's going to realize that path to getting to the top is good. And she's not very young either, but that path to the top is going to be very difficult if you don't know how to grapple. And she's already learned that, but I don't know. There's a lot of wrestling that she needs to do, and she should be using it in the fight to get used to doing it under the lights and in the crowd and everything. But good performance. It was good. I wasn't impressed because if you're this decorated of a kickboxer, you should have dominated Lipski.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always a couple of asterisks with her performances, whether it be the knockout and submission loss, or this kind of just every time she fights now, you're seeing her kind of getting hit and stuff. And I know the UFC wants to promote that storyline just like they did with Izzy and Alex. Same principle here. They want to obviously show her versus Shevchenko based on their past. But like Carlos said, she's not getting any younger, so it'll be interesting to see how she does against Andrade if they decide to do that matchup. And I'm going to kick this one off and actually just pass this one over to Carlos here. And this one obviously had a little bit of controversy with a lot of people. And I'll talk a little bit about how I saw the fight, but I want to give Carlos his chance because I think out of a lot of the fights, this was the one that Carlos and I were split on when we did the recap. I think that I was kind of surprised that Spivac wasn't able to get the fight to the ground and control him on the ground. We saw how good his control was in previous fights. But Carlos, how did you see the fight going? How did you see, did you kind of disagree with the pick? Did you disagree with the result overall and the judges? And did you think that Spivac got robbed?
I disagree with it because in each round damages the first priority. You know what I mean? Like that's the first thing you're going to score. And the other thing too is probably the last one is your ring generalship. And not only did Spivac kind of earn the ring, like the space in the ring, he pretty much was the one landing all the strikes that were more impactful and more effective. Um, Waldo Cortes was throwing a lot of jabs, kind of light 1-2s, and he threw a couple leg kicks here and there. But Spivac was in no danger. Now, whether you want to believe that Waldo was, playing to the crowd and he wasn't really hurt, that's fine. But his body reacted to the shot, and then he decided to play to the crowd, to play it off. So if that was the case, then he did a great job for the judges. But when it comes to the outcome of the fight, yeah, he took most of the damage of the real power shots in this fight, and I just thought that he didn't do like I don't he didn't do enough to win for me, but it was a sloppy fight. Both guys after round one were a little lethargic. The footwork was off. They were kind of sloppy, but I still would have, as a judge, I would have gave it to Spivac.
Yeah, how did you have this one scored? What was? Can you remember through rounds one, two, three? Because I personally had it. Costa taking round two. I gave Spivac round three, and I think it came down to how you score that first round. And to me, Spivac had the first 2.5 minutes, and Costa kind of took over in the last section of the first round, and then he kind of carried that momentum into the second. That to me is when I look back at the judges' scorecards, that's pretty much how it was scored, apart from the one judge that gave Costa all 3 rounds. I didn't see that. I didn't see him winning the third round at all. And Carlos and I were texting back and forth on this one, so a little peek behind the curtain for you ground and pounders. I said that I thought that Costa won, but I didn't hate. If the judges gave it to Spivac, I definitely wouldn't have hated it because I would have said Spivac won round 1 and round 3. I felt like Spivac definitely did enough to win round 3. When you look at it, he was landing big shots. Obviously, the moment Carlos mentioned where Acosta kind of reacted to the big shot. He was up against the fence. He had him backed up. That was the round as well where he had that takedown where he was able to pick him up and slam him as well. not a lot of control, but like I said, like Carlos mentioned as well, with the ring generalship, I kind of felt like Spivac kind of put it all out there in the third round and was able to kind of win that round. Two, to me, was very obviously Acosta. I stand firm on that. But I think when you go back and watch that first round, you'll see Spivac kind of land a big shot and then not throw anything for a while. Costa pitter-patters and throws, like Carlos said, a couple of jabs, couple of low kicks, a right hand to the body kind of thing. And after that, I think that the volume overall was what won the judges over. I definitely don't think robbery. I definitely don't see it as a robbery. And I actually texted Carlos and said I think either person you give that to, you could make a case. It's definitely one of those ones where if you're the Spivac corner, you kind of say, we could have done more. If you're Acosta and you lose there, you could say, I definitely could have done more. But like I said, it's not a hill I'm going to die on. I definitely was not confident that Waldo had done enough to get it done. And he was one of our best bets this week. I was rooting for him as my pick, and I was rooting for him as the underdog for our best bets. But overall, that's kind of heavyweights, man. They're kind of sloppy at times, and they kind of leave a lot to be desired. But I did think that Spivac was going to be able to come in and get a sort of like a trip takedown and get a lot of control. We saw that against Tybura. He was able to control him very easy. We saw he was able to take Almeida down and control him. So I was kind of surprised he wasn't able to get the wrestling going. But overall, pretty sloppy fight. But let us know in the comments section, guys. Who did you guys think won that fight? Did you think that Spivac did enough to win and he was robbed? Or do you think that Waldo, the volume and the judges got it right with him? And next up, we had Azamat getting the first round knockout. And if you didn't watch our full card breakdown, this one pretty much went exactly how we thought it was. We've both been very impressed with Azamat. 15-0 now, getting the first round finished. And he just looks fantastic, man. They got to give him a main event spot like he called out for on the mic after his victory. Talking about, maybe a fight night card at the Apex. I'd like to see that, man. I think that his hands looked impressive, the speed, the footwork, and a guy, like I mentioned on the breakdown, that you wouldn't necessarily look at and think that he has the speed and the athleticism that he does, that southpaw stance, and like Carlos and I both said as well, he has that wrestling to fall back on. Nice performance, nice victory, and no 50K bonus, unfortunately, for him. But I think that was probably down to the level of competition he was fighting. The Ribeiro chin didn't hold up, and ultimately he cashed for us with the parlay as our second leg, getting it done by the knockout 4 weeks in a row with that big parlay cashing for us on our best bets. But Carlos, what did you think of the performance, and what do you think about Azamat moving forward as a main event spot?
This fight pretty much went the same, like the way we thought it was going to go. I felt kind of, as I was looking through the bets, I was on DraftKings trying to make a bet, and I was like, all right, I'll pick the round where I think he's going to get knocked out. And I actually was going to go for round one, and I guess a lot of people thought the exact same thing too. So it didn't work out. It wasn't really worth doing it. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to let it go. And it happened. He got the knockout, and the bad part about this is like he doesn't have a huge name or a huge following, and I'm like, so is a fight night in his future right now? I don't see why not. I think it'll put him on a main stage. More people are going to find out who he is, and I mean, what was that last main event that we just had? Was Blanchfield versus Macy
well, we didn't even
Barber.
get the main event, but
Yeah, we didn't even get it. So it's like those two aren't that big a name. I'd say give it to Azamat, and Azamat. Let's see what happens, because I think he's very impressive. I love how he's light on his feet. I like how he moves like a fighter. He moves like an athlete. He's got some pop. And I think he's going to be very impressive in this weight class.
Yeah, you make a good point. If we can get Blanchfield and Macy Barber, and we can get people like that at the main event at the Apex, we can definitely get my homie Azamat. We can definitely get him in the main event. And we had a very impressive performance here by Joshua Van. Every single time this kid fights, I got to say, man, he looks impressive. He looks better and better every time. The boxing looked crisp, and the takedown defense held up as well. He was taken down at one point, straight back to his feet. Great urgency, volume with the boxing, just kind of basically just butchering Bruno Silva. Dropped him a few times, and he looks impressive, man. I think it's kind of one of those things where I've kind of been expecting Joshua Van to kind of fall short at some point where, he's kind of been taking a higher and higher level competition, because you tend to see with some of the younger guys, 23, 24, that they just run into that roadblock and they get that one performance where, that guy is just too good for him and he just needs to, kind of go back to the drawing board and improve. He's not really hit that yet, and he's been able to do pretty much whatever he wants when it comes to implementing his game plan throughout all of these fights. So another good victory. I know a high-level guy, a ranked guy, and again, Carlos and I both obviously thought Joshua Van was going to win. He put on a dominant performance and he got the third round finish, but good for him. I don't know who you go with next. Obviously, Bruno Silva now, I think he's lost his last two. And ultimately for him, I think he might be in a little bit of trouble. 35 years old, like I mentioned on the full card breakdown, isn't necessarily where you want to be at the lighter weight classes. But Joshua Van looks like he could be a problem, especially at this weight division at a high level. Carlos, what did you think of the performance, and what do you think about Joshua Van's upside moving forward?
Well, I thought Joshua Van has got a lot of upside. He did have that little hiccup with Charles Johnson, which anybody could have that hiccup. Johnson's a talented guy as well on the feet, but it's just one of those things that's like he finds a way out of bad situation. He also has the ability to fight, and it sounds stupid to say that, but there's a lot of guys in MMA who offensively can work some magic, but defensively can't do that. He can do both, and that's why when you see it and it's solid, you're like, that guy can make some waves in this division. And he's rising to the occasion every time they bring him up. I thought he was going to have a hard time with Silva because Silva's a very quick young man, like very, very fast. And there was a time where he's throwing a lot of feints, and he's starting to look like Bruce Lee in one of those End of the Dragon movies. The hands, you could see it in slow motion. It's going fast, and Van just picks him apart. Like he just couldn't see any Van strikes coming. So I was definitely wrong about that one. But yeah, I don't know who he's going to fight next. I mean, the only thing I was thinking was, hey, if you're going to take your time with Manel Kopp, because I know the UFC definitely doesn't want Manel to be champion. They're afraid of what he's going to say, how he's going to act, whatever the case may be. I think he's funny, but whatever the case is, I don't think they want him to be a champ. But throw him in there with Kopp and see what happens. I think that could be too much too soon, but I think he's ready to handle a challenge like that.
Yeah, that'd be a good fight for sure. I do think the speed of Kopp would probably give him some problems, but overall, Joshua Van's proven me wrong, so I'm definitely not going to die on the hill that Joshua Van's not going to have success against anybody at this point. And next up, we had arguably one of the most disappointing UFC debuts in terms of performance that we've seen. Mario Bautista getting the victory. I'm done with my hate with Mario Bautista. I put it in the past now. Obviously, him getting that unanimous decision victory over Jose Aldo did rub me the wrong way, but hats off to him for getting it done. He did what he was supposed to do, but come on, Patchy Mix, man. What was this? I mean, this performance overall was very disappointing, especially from a bettor's perspective. I think he came in with the wrong game plan. He should have wrestled and grappled early. I think if this fight hit the mat, Carlos and I were saying, he's obviously a very credentialed jiu-jitsu practitioner. I think that his grappling would have been too much for Mario Bautista. I think he would have been able to find the submission. He talked about finding the submission. He talked a hell of a lot of shit coming in as well, and he just decided to basically get beaten up for 3 rounds, and he didn't necessarily even start fighting until latter stages of the 3rd round. I just think if you're going to come in here and talk all that game, you better be ready to back it up. And he had absolutely no head movement like the commentary team was talking about. And overall, I feel like he got what he deserved. He didn't come in with the best performance. Mario Bautista just showed him that there's levels to this stuff in the MMA, and that the UFC promotion is obviously the highest grade that there is in MMA. And all that Bellator stuff is for the birds. So, Patchy Mix, disappointing. What can you say, man? I don't know. This guy, I don't want to go on a long, excessive rant, but I just don't understand how you don't come in and mix in the grappling. If you watched his striking at the weekend, you can obviously see why. The lack of head movement, the lack of absolute will to fight on the feet and actually trust your hands wasn't there. But, Carlos, what did you think of the performance? What did you think overall of Bautista and of Patchy Mix's UFC debut?
I thought it was a very sad performance because we've seen him move and we've seen him outstrike people. Now, are they the highest level? No, but we've seen him outstrike some people. And, Bautista, like we were talking about prior to the start of the show, is that he's not a very big striker, because if he had some big pop, he would have got him out of there pretty quickly. He was a sitting duck. He didn't move his head. The amount of body shots that he took, you know what I mean? He's just stayed in one spot. Bautista was moving. He was throwing. Everything was landed for him. And there was, like I was telling you, there was a flash where Mix actually threw like 2 punches in 2 different occasions in the last round. And it looked like if he were to start off doing that, he could have done a lot of damage to Bautista. And I just don't know if the timing of Bautista, the movement was throwing him off. I don't know what it was, but Patchy just looked stiff, and he looked confused, like he didn't know what to do. But every time he came back to the corner, he had that mean mug on his face, like he was going to come back out and go to work. And then he went back out and just became the human mannequin and sat in the middle and just took damage. So I don't understand it, man. It was very, very embarrassing for him. But yeah, somebody with that good a ground game not going for a takedown, it's a little upsetting, because I would love to see how Bautista would do if it hit the ground, and we didn't get to see that. So Bautista, I can't believe so many people were booing him, and I'm assuming it's because of the Aldo fight. Nobody believed that he actually won that fight, and MMA fans are holding grudges, but very sad performance.
Yeah, I was going to say to you that I was going to say to you as well that I do think that this performance overall is going to go down in the history as one of the worst UFC debuts. And those videos that people see on YouTube sometimes where it says, like when trash talk goes wrong. I'm sure people in the MMA community have seen those before. I feel like there's going to be a highlight reel tape of him just, talking a lot of shit all week of all the things that he said, and then pretty much just show some of the highlights of his shitty performance. But hats off to Bautista. I'm done with the hate. Good victory. Got it done against a high-level guy. And next up, we had Kevin Holland getting the submission victory. Performance of the night bonus here. Kevin Holland, always exciting, always, ready down for a fight, always wants to scrap, getting it done here, starting to make a run here at 170. He's talked about staying at 170, which I like for him, not having to deal with the bigger guys trying to wrestle him. And he obviously had a fun fight here against Vicente Luque. Both guys were game. Both guys were trading in the pocket. And as you can see in the bottom right there, Kevin Holland landing a very vicious elbow that had a nice welt on the back of Vicente Luque's ear there, which was pretty impressive. I thought overall, I thought Kevin Holland looked good. He looked ready for a scrap, and he put on a good show, which Kevin Holland always likes to do whilst yapping his gums. And I'm always down for Kevin Holland, man. Whenever he's in a fight, it's always must-see TV. The UFC knows what they have in Kevin Holland. His hands were put on display, and ultimately he was able to get the choke victory here against Vicente Luque. And I see some people always talking about like, oh, I see Kevin Holland's been working on his ground game. Well, you don't know what you're talking about. Kevin Holland's always had a fantastic ground game, and he demonstrated it last night. Carlos, what do you think of the Trailblazer with his performance?
This is a performance that he can pull off almost every time that he's in the cage, and that's why when me and you talk about who are we going to pick for this fight, it always depends on which Kevin Holland's going to show up. And you always hope that this one shows up, the one ready to go to war, the one that's going to use a submission game, the one that's going to stuff some takedowns. And he showed up. He was able to get it done quickly. And the thing is, there's always a lot of openings. And when you're watching a Kevin Holland fight and you know his background, you know how he can fight, you're like, why doesn't he go for this? Why didn't he go for that? The opening's right there. So I'm glad that he took it. I'm glad he got the Darce finish. And, he was very, very much happy to walk around over to Joe Rogan and just point out, he's like, this is Travis Jiu-Jitsu. We got to bring it, not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Travis Lutter. We got to bring it back to America. Yep. And obviously we had the Don there. He said, Kevin Holland, you had one hell of a submission. Everyone knows it. Everyone saw it. It was a fantastic submission finish. And I'm glad he was there front row and got to see Kevin Holland make Jiu-Jitsu great again.
No words needed for that one, that's for sure. And Joe Pyfer rounding out the big parlay for us that's hit 4 weeks in a row on our best bets. If you haven't seen that, check it out on our best bets channel that comes the best bets video that comes out every week. And Pfeiffer getting it done, man. And I will say that one of the things that bugged me about this one, the commentary team kind of made this fight sound like it was a lot closer than what it was. I'll get Carlos's take in a moment. But I had Pfeiffer winning this one, no problem. I wasn't worried about the judges on this one. Obviously, Calvin Gastelum took over a little bit late, but I think by then, Pfeiffer had done enough damage. I even was thinking as well, and they weren't really talking about it, but the first round, Pfeiffer was able to drop Calvin Gastelum about 2 or 3 times. I was actually thinking to myself, that could have been a 10-8 round with the amount of times he dropped him and almost finished him. No one was really talking about that on the commentary team. They seemed to think the fight was much closer than what it was. And the second round, nothing really happened. And the third round was pretty much Calvin Gastelum. But ultimately, Pfeiffer getting the win. I didn't see it that way. I thought Pfeiffer obviously came out and did what he was supposed to do. Aggressive striker, athletic striker. And one thing Pfeiffer's got to stop doing, man, is he gets on the mic and he says, I've noticed he does this in a few fights. I don't know if anybody else has noticed this. He says, not to make excuses, and then list off a bunch of excuses. Oh, well, I had back surgery, and then I don't know if you picked up on that, Carlos, but he does that quite a lot. Like, I just had a bit of ring rust. Let me just get into the, and I'm just sitting there like, dude, you had a good performance. You did what you were supposed to do. You took on a high-level middleweight who probably doesn't take his career that seriously, but you did what you were supposed to do. You got the victory. Stand by that. Calvin Gastelum has a great chin. You have a lot of power. You're not going to be able to always finish everybody, but I think he had a few opportunities which he can obviously work on moving forward. And Joe Pfeiffer's a problem, man. And I think it was a decent performance, and he obviously cashed for us in our big parlay this week. Carlos, what do you think of the performance, and did you agree with the decision and the kind of, how the commentary team was talking about it? I don't know if you saw that too.
Yeah, I mean, when I heard that, I thought maybe I missed something in the fight. So I actually watched this one again earlier today just to make sure. I go, did I not see something? And I watched it, and I'm like, okay, Joe Pfeiffer won every round. Now, the first round was the way you want someone like Joe Pfeiffer with the name Body Bags to win it. You want him to win in dominant fashion each and every round. What I didn't like, even last night watching it, was he kind of allowed Calvin to come back into the fight. He's like, Calvin, I'm going to stand back here. You can come to me. Which, if that's what they're taking as like him pressuring Pfeiffer, him putting too much heat on him, like he didn't do anything really. Like he wasn't in any danger. So I wouldn't say that he won the second round. I actually have Gastelum winning the last round because he landed the more significant shots and he was pressuring him and blah blah blah. But the thing is Pfeiffer it wasn't very impressive. You know what I mean? You're fighting this, and I'm not making fun of him because yes, I have a little chub in my belly too. I got a little nuggety center, so I'm okay with that. But you're fighting a guy who didn't care to lose weight at all to fight. You're like a foot taller than him. You can't pressure him. You can't get him out of there. You can't keep him down. Like he went for a takedown, got him down, and he struggled to keep him down. I understand Calvin can wrestle, but against big grapplers, he's always had a hard time. But against Joe Pfeiffer, you can get back up so easy. He looked like he didn't even train for this. So now in the striking department, you're getting hit by a guy who's you got about 10 inches of reach on. I know it's not 10 inches, but he's got reach on him. He's got height on him. And I'm just thinking, I'm like, what are you doing? Like Joe Pfeiffer's got a lot of work to do. You know what I mean? He's got a lot of work to do because mentally he loses focus in his fights because I think he believes he's going to end it all within the first round. And he's got to get that focus in his head for the entire 3 if he moves up the ladder 5 rounds. But right now he's not a finished product yet. And saying that, yeah, he's a young guy. Everybody knows he's not a finished product. But mentally right now, it also falls in line with what you said. I don't want to make excuses, but it's like he's looking for it. And he's always looking for a reason why he didn't do it. It's like, let's stop being accountable. And, just make it happen, Joe. Like put him out if you can. Don't play around. You don't have the skill to do that with guys at that level. Eventually you will. It's just not right now. I don't know. Something about this fight bothered me because the way he talks about himself as a fighter, he doesn't come out like that unless he knows he's going to get you out of there in the first round. And that's what's really annoying.
Yeah, basically go back to being Joe Pfeiffer instead of all this other stuff that he's got going on in his head. But Yeah, I think Carlos, man, I think you're being a little bit harsh, man. You know, it was raining outside. You know, he missed the first bus, and then he to get to the arena, so he had to get the second bus. There was plenty of reasons why he had an off night. So I think we should cut him a little bit of slack. No, I'm just playing. Yeah, I forget you should.
Look at what happened in Mexico. He gets sick eating the food. Now he's never going to go back to that dirty country ever
Yeah,
again.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, it was an accident. Things happen. You don't have to look to blame someone. Just be like, this happens. Not gonna let it happen again. It's something about that attitude that I just don't dig, And
Yeah,
hopefully, he matures and gets out of that.
yeah, yeah. He has that jock vibe to me. Speaking of jock, we have the two-time gold medalist getting it done. She's getting the new strap, performance of the night bonus, and new Kayla Harrison looking good in the bantamweight division. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit about the Amanda Nunes fight too, but ultimately getting the Kimura victory, the buzzer beater Kimura, trying to rip Juliana Pena's arm off. It would have been nice if she could have taken her lips and her mouth and her vocal cords with her, but overall, good performance. Carlos and I both said, obviously when we did the breakdown, Carlos did pick Juliana Pena. I went with Harrison. I felt like if this fight went long, that Harrison would be in trouble, but ultimately it didn't get there. She was able to pull off the Kimura victory, performance of the night victory, 50K bonus, and new. So ultimately, Harrison getting it done, adding more gold to the mantle. Carlos, what did you think of the performance overall?
Very dominant performance by Harrison. She was in no trouble at all in this fight, and yeah, I mean, she wants to, or they both want this fight, Nunes and Harrison, and I think it's a nightmare matchup for Harrison, as most people probably do. But you know, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to tune in. It's going to be exciting for me. Nunes is one of my favorites, and I love watching her put girls out here and there, all over the place. She hits you with a shot. She turned, what was it, Ronda Rousey into one of those air, fucking, I don't even know what those things are called, dancing around with the
Oh, the
fan on.
things at the car
I
sale
love,
things, like the
yeah,
things that flipped
yeah.
around.
I love those things, man. Every time I drive by, I go, "Oh, look, it's Rhonda. She's working today." So all I know is she can crack. Now, how is Harrison gonna get by that? I don't know, but she's smart enough. She's got that drive. She works hard. They're gonna figure out a game plan for Nunes. But in the meantime, it was very nice to see Pena get shut up, though. Even though I
Yeah.
picked her, I was like, maybe she's to fit in, and that's not too bad.
Yeah. I think overall the MMA community is happy that they're not going to have to see Juliana Pena for a while and she's been shut up. But just to touch on the Nunes versus Kayla Harrison fight, it is one that has kind of been talked about for a long time. I know they've been going back and forth from their time since they both trained at ATT together. I know that Nunes came out and said the reason that she moved away from American Top Team was because of Kayla Harrison. She came out on an interview and said that. So good matchup. It's been obviously in the works for a long time, and now we're finally going to get to see it happen. And Nunes, obviously one of the greats, if not one of the best in the women's division, takes on the current champ. And Kayla Harrison is an absolute problem. So we'll see how this fight plays out. Looking forward to seeing how this one goes as well. And that brings us all the way to the main event. And if you haven't already and you're enjoying the content here on the Ground and Pound podcast, hit that like and subscribe button as we talk about the main event of UFC 316. Sugar Sean O'Malley, well, it's definitely not sweet. Merab, obviously he likes to eat healthy, but he ate sugar for breakfast. I was very impressed, honestly, with Merab, man. Hats off to him. You can't not like Merab. His fighting style is not necessarily the most fan favorite for some people, but it's very, very impressive, man. To be able to get the finish as well. That DAS kind of like I'm not even sure if it is a DAS, to be honest with you. It looks like a DAS, but impressive performance overall. If I'm being honest with you, I just don't understand how you really beat Merab. The pressure, the cardio, like we both said on the breakdown. I thought that Sean O'Malley was going to be able to kind of find that the feet, be more aggressive, pressure forward like he did early in round one. But I think once he got taken down, once that they kind of stood and traded for a little while, O'Malley was actually losing some of the striking exchanges. Merab was able to touch his chin a few times. I think that backed O'Malley up, and ultimately that was all she wrote. That got the wrestling going, and from there, as we all know, you either go to sleep or you tap, and O'Malley had to tap. I think the aura and the confidence of Sean O'Malley's had taken a little bit of a hit, and Merab just shows he's super dominant. He's a great champion, and he's a fun guy on social media. He's obviously very, very funny. thought the fight was a little bit dull. I thought that he could have. I would like to see a little bit more back and forth, a little bit more competitive. But hats off to Merab. He's a hard worker, and happy for him to get it done. But Carlos, what did you think of the performance? What did you think overall of Merab and O'Malley, and what they're going to see moving forward from those two?
Merab, like I said, I can't. We talked about it before the show. I can't wait to see his rematch with Umar Nurmagomedov. I think that's going to be a war, and I think Umar's going to come back a little bit better, and obviously Merab's going to be a little bit better. So I can't wait to see that one. I'd love to see Corey Sandhagen get a shot just because he's a hard worker. If they give him the shot, I think he's going to find a pretty good game plan. I don't think he's going to win, but I think he's going to find a pretty good game plan to fight Merab. But with O'Malley, I mean, hell of a performance. He actually bested him on the feet, which I was very happy about that too, just because, you know, O'Malley's very intimidating. He's got great movement, good in and out. He's long strikes, good power, and his knees are very tricky. And you never really see him coming. But Merab did a great job, and it scared me for a little bit because he was standing in front of him a little too much. And to me, that made me feel like, oh no, he's just waiting to get stuck. But you know, O'Malley just couldn't find the rhythm, and the takedown defense obviously got better. He focused on it, so anything you focus on, it's going to get a little better. But once he got him down, now he had a hard time getting back to his feet, and that north-south choke, I was just happy to see him actually, you know, finally get a finish. Because it's fun to watch Merab fight because he's being goofy and he's pointing to the crowd and he's laughing, he's having fun with the commentary team. But a lot of times it doesn't look like he's hurting anyone. He's just like outlasting them. You know what I mean? So it was good to at least see him get a definitive, you know, finish in this one. And, you know, to me, kind of shut O'Malley up just because I like O'Malley. I think he's got a lot of skill. I think he's very talented. But, you know, when it comes to hype, I don't think he's hyped. I think he's very good. I just think this guy's better than you. It's okay. Just try to take a chance next time. Take a risk. Don't stand there, watch him fight you. You see an opening, go for it. Like we stated before, if you're going to get taken down anyway, throw a Hail Mary. And he didn't want to take a chance. He didn't want to risk anything. And, you know, that's what happens. You know, it's a sad outcome for him, but I was very happy to see Merab win, not just because I picked him, but, you know, he looks like that little guy on the spectrum that you just want to have a good life. And I like Merab, man. He's good people.
Yeah, and I just hope that Sugar Sean O'Malley doesn't come out and do his best Joe Pyfer impression and say the sun was in his eyes. And, you know, I expect, like you said to me, Carlos was joking around saying that, you know, O'Malley makes a lot of excuses, especially after the first fight. And he was saying, you know, maybe I spent too much time with my wife and kids and I should have smoked. And, you know, he just comes out with a lot of BS excuses. Hopefully he doesn't do his best Joe Pyfer impression. Hopefully he takes this one on the chin and moves forward and gets you know, gets a little bit better and comes back ready. And obviously 50K for Merab, performance of the night bonus, well deserved. I would like to see him do the Corey Sandhagen matchup, just to touch upon that. I think Umar's had his chance. Obviously, Merab was able to get that one done fairly definitively, but I think Corey Sandhagen would be a nice matchup. That they're going to sell the fuck out of that flying knee. They're going to talk about that flying knee he had on Frankie Edgar, and that one shot could be all it takes to put Merab out. I think Merab takes him down and just wrestle fucks him like he does with most people. But ultimately, I would like to see is it Shaggy off of Scooby Doo, who Corey Sandhagen kind of looks a little bit like. I'd like to see that matchup take place. But if you're enjoying the content here and you're a big time MMA fan, we got plenty more for you to come here on the Ground and Pound podcast. We have the full card breakdown for Usman taking on Joaquin Buckley this week, and ultimately that fight. I'm not necessarily trust Usman's knees. I don't know about Carlos, but tune in. We'll find out. Full card breakdown coming to you this week. And the PFL is back, the World Tournament, the second round. Carlos and I doing a full card breakdown there for the PFL this week. Obviously, we have best bets. Obviously, we have quick picks, dog of the week, you name it. We have it here on the Ground and Pound podcast. And before we wrap things up, as always, Carlos, do you have anything you want to say to the people?
Same thing as I said last time. I hope everybody enjoyed what we were talking about here. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll be throwing more stuff at you this week.
Yep. Amen. And we want to hear from you in the comments. Let us know about the Waldo Cortes-Acosta fight taking on Spivac. We want to hear who you guys had in the main event. We want to hear from you. Let us know in the comments section. And as always, we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.